Wild dogs, this is so exciting. Brent's going to be very jealous. I'm definitely going to send him a photo of wild puppies today. Isn't that amazing? And it's not even a small pack either. We've got a larger pack, which is great. So I'm not sure how many dogs are here or which pack it is, but it is definitely one of the larger packs. I would imagine probably the Endangered pack. That would be a pack that we would get. The Endangered pack would have come from the north. The Sands pack, as far as I know, yesterday were far west, so they were somewhere around Arathusa area, so I'd be very surprised if it was them. But Endangered pack it could be. Now, I'm sure some of you out there will know the differences between them and could tell us which ones are which. Herbie is just some slumpy madash. Well, it's a frantic start to the morning. We've come out, the sun is rising, there are wild dogs, and this promises to be... Good morning everybody and welcome to our sunrise safari, and couldn't it not start it off in a better way. This is absolutely amazing. We've got this pack of dogs that is just on the road and they are playing and having a great time. Now, my name is Tristan and on camera today we've got Craig the Batman, and as you can see we are... well, our plans have been completely changed because of the wild dogs, which is fantastic. So, super excited that the dogs are here. Remember, you can get hold of us on #SafariLive on Twitter if you want to know anything about the wild dogs or just about Africa in general. Now, James will be out just now on bushwalk, and Jamie will be out a little bit later. She's had a few mechanical issues on Wendy, so she's just changed onto Jigger, and so we'll see her a little bit later. But the dogs are slowly mobile now in a northerly direction. It looks like a pack of 10, which I would imagine is the Endangered pack. And so we're going to try see if we can't keep up with them. I don't think we're going to have them too long, because if they run like this, we're going to be at the gate in about 5 minutes. So it is going to be probably a short but sweet sighting of them, but it's always incredible to watch the dogs, especially when they're playing and they're running along and chasing one another as they are doing this morning. It's just absolute chaos when it comes to wild dogs. I love when they're in these kind of moods, so I'm just going to try and pull to the side so that we can actually see them, but they seem to be playing a lot this morning, and this is the time that they'll get up and they'll start to move, and hopefully, like I say, they're going to turn and come a little bit further east and not just stay going north, because if they start turning east then we'll be able to follow them, but if they go north then it's going to be a bit of an issue. But you can see, look, they're busy playing at the moment, and these games are all great because what will happen with this is that they're learning how to grab each other, grab prey items. It all becomes a vital part of their growing up and their way of sort of getting used to what they're doing. So a lot of these will be younger dogs. Now I'm just going to pull a little bit forward here so we can see them playing, but look at that, they're back on their back legs. And you can hear them squeaking a little bit. Wild dogs make the most amazing noises. You'll find that they'll squeak and they'll woo, and when they're like this, it is pure playtime. And what will happen is, once the playtime is finished, then it's time to go hunting. So they would have been resting through the night. It was a dark night. The moon is starting to get sort of going towards new moon, and so the nights are not as bright as it was a few days or a few weeks ago. And so the dogs will typically rest then, and then now in the morning they'll start to get going and they'll start to be able to start hunting. But there's playtime first before the hunting starts. There we go, you can see a few of them on their back legs, and that is typical wild dog play. When they're up on their back legs and biting one another and going after one another, that is absolutely typical of the dogs. Now, we're trying to play leapfrog a little bit because Aubrey is here and he managed to find the dogs for us, and so we're trying to let his guests have a view of what's going on as well as us. So it is kind of a game of leapfrog, and we let each one have a chance. And there you can see them up in the distance. Isn't this amazing? What a way to start the morning. And you can see those little dawn colors in the background. Really is very, very pretty. Now, what you'll notice is, though, even though they're playing, that there is always one or two dogs that are off on the sides, and they'll be the ones that are listening and just looking out for any signs of any potential prey items or predators. Often when they're playing and they're making noises, they're not actually realizing what's going on around them, and sometimes it can be a time when you'll find things like lions or leopards can often cream up onto them. So you'll always find one dog that stops and listens and just kind of makes sure that they are kind of keeping up with what's going on. But I'm so excited. It's been so long since I've seen wild dogs, and wild dogs have got to be one of the best animals to follow, particularly at this time of the morning. They're animals that really love to get going at this time, so to be able to find them now is absolutely amazing. Come on, puppies, you've got to turn east now. The way that you're going is not a good way. Now, for those of you who have never seen wild dogs, there is a very, very, very pungent smell that is happening at the moment. I'm just going to try to pull forward a little bit just because there's a stump and I want Aubrey to be able to see. So I'm just going to go forward a little bit. Now, they have a very pungent smell. It's an interesting smell and one that's very difficult to actually sort of describe to you. But as you follow behind them, you'll find there's this kind of pungent, musty kind of smell that comes off them. And it is so typical. When you smell that smell, often if you're driving on the road, you get so excited because you know that the dogs must be close. And you can only smell it when they are close. So at the moment, it is very pungent as we follow in behind them. But look at how they're using those big ears. They're on the side of the roads. They're listening. Because they're quite short animals, they often can't see over the grass. And so they would then rather use those big ears to hear what's going on than to actually see what's going on. There we go. Now you'll notice each one is also different. There's patterns on all of them. You can see that there's some that are brighter than others. So, Michael, you're wondering when the wild dogs are denning, how far they're going to travel from the den in a day. Well, wild dogs are going to be starting to den shortly. For those of you who don't know, the wild dogs will den normally around May, June. And what happens is that they find an area, they'll have their puppies there, and then they are localized to that area. And generally, they won't travel more than 7 kilometers from that den. And every morning, they'll go in a different direction. And they end up making this kind of like star shape as they go away. And the reason why they do that is so that every time they go out, their success of hunting is probably better. If they kept going on the same route, you'll find animals are going to get very wary of these wild dogs every day and are not going to come into that area. So if they go every day in a different way, it means that they are, 1, going to be able to find the food, and 2, they're going to be able to stop things like hyenas and lions picking up that they're going to the same place every time and following them and then endangering their puppies. So that's why they tend to do that. But probably about 7 kilometers is the average, and that's from what I've picked up from a guy that I know very well, a friend of mine that studies the wild dogs in the Kruger. He says generally when they're denning, they don't move sort of more than 7 kilometers from the radius of that den. But he says sometimes they'll range a little bit further. Most days, funnily enough, they actually don't go anywhere near that sort of distance. Sometimes they only go in sort of 2-3 kilometers. Now, what is interesting with wild dogs is that a lot of people think that they are the most successful predator in terms of how many times they actually catch a prey item when hunting, and it's not actually that true. So this friend of mine was telling me that they did a study, and it basically turned out that the dogs had a success rate that was very similar to the cats. It's just that they chase so many more animals that they seem to, in a hunting session, be more successful. But in terms of an actual, every time they chase an animal, they're really actually not much more successful than the cats. It's just that they'll hunt so many more times in a hunting session than what, say, a lion or a leopard will. A lion will stalk a buffalo. If it misses, it then lies down, whereas dogs will chase 5 or 6 impala in their hunting session. So, Snouty Mom, yes, they do need to eat every day. The wild dogs have a very, very high oh, look, they're chasing something. They're busy chasing a scrub hare. I'm going to try to see if I can't get in behind them here. This is where we need Connor and his drone, because it would be much easier. Now, they've gone into a thicket that I don't think we're going to be able to follow them into, but let's try. I can see one is running through here still. Now, this pack seems to love these scrub hares. Here we go, there's one coming back this way. Just want to see if the scrub hare pops out in front of us. No. I don't know if they missed it. I didn't hear anything. Often when they hunt things like scrub hares, you'll actually hear the kill happen. You'll hear a squeal of that animal, and that will be the end of it. Now, we've got one dog here. Another dog has just run from the back, and then there was a whole bunch that ran in there after the scrub hare. But this is why wild dogs are the best animals to follow. It's just always action-packed with them. They chase things all over the place. And like I was saying to you, now is the time of the day when they're looking to hunt. But look how amazing that light is on these guys as well. The sun has just risen, and it's just spectacular. Now, there is one more behind me. The rest are starting to come out, so they obviously missed the scrub hare. But wasn't that amazing just to see the scrub hare shooting in front of us, wild dogs in tow? And you can see, like I was saying just now, in terms of their actual success rate, they're not always the most successful as everybody thinks they are. There we go. Now, when you don't catch a scrub hare, you chase one another. I'm sure the rest will start filtering out of the bush. This is what happens, is once they've chased, then the rest of them all start to come back to the road, and they then try and find one another. Isn't that cool? Well, guys, you missed Endangered Species Day by a day, but it's still awesome to see you. Melissa, no, the wild dogs don't bark like domestic dogs, but just look at that light. Isn't that amazing? Look at all the colors that are coming off of that wild dog. Now, I've heard some people say that they are not pretty animals, but for me, I love their markings. They've got all these kind of mottled colors. Now, sorry, Melissa, I got a bit distracted there, but the wild dogs don't bark, no. They make a wooing sound when they're wanting to contact each other, and it's like a hollow, eerie sort of sound, and they'll go woo, 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 and that's how they'll contact one another. If they're very excited, then they start to squeal, but there's definitely no barking that takes place. They're not like domestic dogs in that regard. Now I can count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I've got 7 now, so we've still got 3 that should be arriving shortly again and joining us. Oh, they're chasing that scrub here. You see that down the road? Now you've got to be watching when you chase after wild dogs, because they often just come out of the bush in front of you, but they were chasing a scrub hare down the road, so let's just try to see if we can't catch up with them. There we go, I think they caught it. They've caught it. Look at this. Isn't this amazing? Now that scrub hare was a full scrub hare 1 second ago. It's now finished. They were almost done with it. Each one is grabbing and getting its own piece. Now, for those of you that are sensitive viewers, I'm sorry about that. That was unfortunately what happens to a scrub hare in 1 minute with a pack of wild dogs. Isn't that insane? And just like that, it's all over. And you can see one of them has got most of the spoils. The rest are going to have to deal with the 1 or 2 little scraps, but this will not be enough to sustain a pack like this. They will just hunt that because the opportunity was there and they each could grab a piece, and what you'll find as soon as they're finished with this, they're going to carry on, and the next thing will probably be something like an impala. That's what they're going to try and go for, because that will feed everybody really, really well. But wasn't that amazing? Didn't you see how fast those wild dogs can move? We must have been doing close to 40 kilometers an hour, and they were just coasting along, and as we got around the corner, they'd already grabbed that scrub hare, and as we came around, the scrub hare was actually a whole entity. But what happens is they all just grab and they pull because they're fighting over that nutrients, and when you've got a pack this size with a small animal like that, it means that they don't have this sort of chance to be able to eat peacefully, and that's why everybody just grabs a piece and off they go, and often the animal will actually die just from being dismembered. Now it might sound like a horrible way to kill an animal, but actually the wild dogs are far more humane in the way that they kill something, because they basically grab it and the animal dies instantly, as opposed to when you find lion or leopard, where they'll sometimes actually eat the animal for long periods of time before it even dies. Now what's come along? Oh, it's more wild dogs. Now, hopefully they're going to greet one another. Look, they're all coming towards us. Isn't this amazing? Now, this is just them greeting. I'm sorry, I've got the bar in the way. It's just they're running all around us, and I actually don't have any space to maneuver. And there you can see the rising sun as well. Isn't this incredible? Wow, what a way to start the day. We are being absolutely spoiled. Look at that golden sunlight as well. That is so, so special. Can you hear them as well? So those are those squeaks that I was talking about, and whines that you'll sometimes hear. And that's because they're now fighting over one of those legs of the scrub hare, unfortunately. So, John, you're wondering about the social hierarchy and how kind of dogs work and what the sort of pack logistics are. Well, basically we have an alpha male and female, and then there'll be a secondary ranking female underneath that. That's the beta female, and then the rest of the pack files in. They're not necessarily related to one another. What you will find is that there is often quite a big distribution between wild dogs, and you'll find young males, young females will often leave packs and join other packs or start their own packs, and so it's not always a family of individuals that are all related. Sometimes you will have other bloodlines within the pack itself, but there is an alpha male and an alpha female, and they will dictate what goes on. And funny enough, they're the only two that will breed. So I was talking earlier about the wild dogs denning, and that's what happens with these wild dogs, is that the male alpha and female will be able to breed, and they will have their young ones. Sometimes you'll get a secondary female breeding, so that would be the beta female, and it depends on the alpha and the availability of food. If there's a lot of food available, then you'll find that that alpha female will allow the beta female to raise her pups, and they'll be able to then feed them. If they start to come into difficult times where they're battling to find food, you'll find that sometimes she will even kill those beta females puppies just to make sure that hers survive. So it really is quite a sort of monarchy society, and it's those two, or alpha society should we say, and those two are the ones that really dominate, and the whole clan will do everything just for the wild dog, for the puppy, should I say. So everybody will work together to keep those alphas on top and to make sure that they are the ones that are looked after and their young are looked after first. So it's quite an amazing system, and that's why the sort of numbers of wild dogs are decreasing, is because even though we've got a big pack here, there's 10 animals, you would think that multiple animals here could breed. No, there will only probably be one female that breeds from this, and then they all collectively try and help and look after these dogs, the puppies. So it's a very difficult sort of breeding strategy, and the other side of it is they've got a high mortality rate. So over 50% of the puppies will die naturally within the first year, which means that a lot of these sort of numbers crash. But this dog in the middle, in front here, has got to be one of the most beautiful wild dogs I've seen. Look at the whites on it, around its bum area. It's got the most incredible pattern. Very, very cool. They're such amazing animals. I can't tell you how incredible it is to watch them kind of go about their business. As you can see, nothing is slow with them. Everything is a bounce and a run and a trot. ZDZ, you're wondering why wild dogs are endangered. Well, it's because the wild dogs, unfortunately, have a very slow breeding pattern, and so at the end of the day, they only the alpha male and female are breeding, combined with the fact that they have a high mortality rate. Over 50% of the dogs do die, and then you'll find also that they've lost a lot of habitat. Dogs require massive areas to move around in. They're not animals that can kind of just move around in small spaces, and so they go into big areas. And a lot of Africa, we've had a lot of issues with encroachment into those reserves, and because wild dogs are such successful predators, it means that they are, unfortunately, a lot of them get killed and poisoned by farmers, because contrary to what people believe, wild dogs actually can sometimes scavenge. So they are not always killing for themselves. They do sometimes pick up pieces of meat as they go past them. And so it means that a lot of them have been shot and poisoned and all kinds of things, because farmers, you can imagine, if a farmer's got a whole bunch of sheep and a pack of wild dogs comes in, that's the end of that sort of flock of sheep. They're going to eat everything. They'll come into at night or in a morning like this, and they'll kill multiple ones, and so their numbers have been lost through that. They're also very susceptible to disease, so they've become susceptible to canine distemper and rabies, and as communities have come onto the fringes of these areas, so they have ended up causing an issue where there's dogs that are coming into contact with these wild dogs, and the wild dogs are then getting rabies, canine distemper, and it's affecting their population. Now, look at this, isn't this amazing? They're just running in this golden light in front of us. Now, I'm just trying to pull over so some of the cars behind us can also see, but that is so cool. They are being backlit, and unfortunately for us, though, it's going to be all of about 2 minutes, and they are going to be crossing to the north and out of our area. So we've had a very special morning with them already, but unfortunately, I think that's going to be it. And there you go, you can see them trotting. Now, hopefully they'll stick on the boundary just for a few seconds so we can actually get to see them. Unfortunately, as well, the area that we're going to, the signal is not very good, so we might have a few sort of breakups in the picture and a bit of stuttering, so I do apologize about that, but hopefully they'll carry on up the boundary and then we'll be okay. But there we go. Isn't this amazing? Look at this light and this grass color with the dogs in it. Such a special scene. It looks like they might just trot east. There is a big dam ahead of us. Now, wild dogs are very big exponents of water. And I say that because what they'll often do is they'll chase animals, and animals will often try and get to water for safety. But a wild dog knows that, and so they'll often chase towards water holes, and then they just surround the water hole, and then it becomes a patience game, and they literally will try and sort of wait, that prey animal, and they'll just sit on the edge and they'll just trot round and round and round and round, and they wait for this sort of animal to fatigue, and the animal tries to escape, and then they often get it. So they'll often do this. Sometimes, unfortunately, they chase into places like Chitwa Dam, which is never the best place to chase anything because the crocodiles snap up all your food. But I have seen them chasing impalas into dams where they've exhausted that impala so much that the impala eventually dies of a heart attack from swimming itself to death. And it's a horrible thing to watch, but once the animal then died, they can then go in and retrieve it. So, Hillbilly Safari, and you're wondering if the heart of a wild dog is larger to enable it to sort of get more blood flow on these hunts than a domestic dog. I'm not 100% sure. I will have to find out for you. I don't know. I've never read anything about it saying that that is the case. It could be quite possible, but I have a feeling it's more to do with the fact that these dogs are almost fit animals. So they like us as people. They've just trained a lot more and they do a lot more than a domestic dog, and therefore they're able to sustain themselves for long periods of time. But I've never heard anything about the heart being bigger. Now I'm just trying to get to another part where we can see them, because they have. So I'm trying to just get up this hill a bit. I should be able to have a long distance view of them. But it's interesting. I would imagine that there must be some sort of maybe the muscle on the heart is thicker, and that therefore means it pumps better and pumps blood faster. It's an interesting thing. I'll have to try and find out for you and see, but I haven't heard anything about that. Now, from where we are now, we should be able to just see them starting to come towards the dam here. This is what I was talking about. So we're at Sydney's dam, and they're just behind this thicket, but they are slowly moving towards the dam itself. So I'm hoping they will pop out, but unfortunately, that's in all likelihood going to be the last view we have of the wild dogs, is them going into the distance. But wasn't that an action-packed way to start the morning? I can't believe wild dogs are. They're one of my favorites. It's such an epic thing to start with, and to see and to watch and see the chaos that sort of reigns with wild dogs. And you can see, even though they've eaten the scrub here, most other predators would have started to just calm down and would have taken it easy. Not the wild dogs. The wild dogs are now in full flow. They're still looking for food. That wasn't nearly enough to sustain them, and so now they're carrying on and trying to find other animals to hunt. And I was actually hoping that we would see some impala in these open clearings. Often when we come in the morning, these open sections are covered in impalas, and well, I don't know. We might be getting lucky here. The dogs look like they're turning, and maybe, just maybe, might be coming back towards our side. So we might have a longer filled morning of wild dogs. They just went to go and drink there, and you can see they're starting to come back the same way that they went in. The problem is that they often go from there, they go around the camp and then into the Manyaleti. So this is the last dog that I can see. The rest have all started coming back this way, and I'm hoping that they will indeed come to where we are, and we'll be able to carry on our morning with these amazing creatures. And I know Jamie's with hyenas, and I wonder if the hyenas maybe didn't steal something from the dogs already this morning. They don't look as though they've fed too much. Their bellies are not massive, but maybe it's possible. Some of the most amazing sort of encounters that I've ever had with wild animals is wild dogs and hyenas. They absolutely loathe each other, and the sort of chaos that ensues. So, World of Stacy, you said you were wondering about wild dogs and hyenas. Well, it's absolute chaos. They will chase each other around. There is squealing, there is whooping, there is just huge amounts of commotion. And often what you'll find is, as soon as the wild dogs start to squeak and start to carry on after they've killed something, when they get excited, then the hyenas come in, and then there's just chaos. They're just chasing each other, biting, lots of sound. It's craziness, and it's always such a spectacular event to watch hyenas and wild dogs go after one another. It's just amazing, and literally you can't even catch your breath. It's just chaos all around you. So it is sort of arch enemies, and they do go at one another, so you have to be a little bit kind of, well, not we have to be anything, but if you're a wild dog, you have to be a bit careful. And if you're a hyena, you also don't want to be caught on your own with a pack like this, because the pack will work together and they bite all over the hyena. And I've seen many hyena get a absolute hiding from wild dogs, as I have seen wild dogs get hidings from hyenas. So it depends on the day and how many of each there is. It's a numbers game when it comes to these two, but they do often kind of interact, and you'll find hyenas a lot of the time will be the winners, because more and more arrive with the sort of excited chatter and the whooping of the others. That will attract more clan members, and soon there's enough hyenas to dominate the wild dogs, and they'll then steal the carcass away. So it is quite interesting. But you can see that they're still just milling around in that morning light. Now I know it's quite far away, but I'm just hoping that they start to move this way. Sometimes you'll find with dogs is that they kind of start milling around after they've killed something and had water, and then they drink, and I'm hoping that from there they start coming across this clearing and using the roads to carry on their morning sort of hunt and the morning movements. There is some wildebeest, unfortunately, north of us that were alarm calling, so I wonder if they maybe aren't going to head that way and try and their luck at wildebeest. It's very seldom here in the Sabi Sands that they do hunt wildebeest, but other parts of the world, that's one of their main sort of prey animals is a wildebeest. A wildebeest is a big animal, and it's a really tough animal to be able to bring down. And so here in the Sabi Sands, it's much easier to hunt things like impalas and those scrub hares and duikers and steenboks than to go after really big animals. And actually I had a sighting, it was last year, that wild dogs were trying to kill a baby wildebeest, and the big male got involved, and the male wildebeest came in and he hit one of the dogs with his horns and threw the wild dog into the air. The wild dog landed, and then he started horning this wild dog, and he actually managed to impale it and cause this massive injury on a wild dog, and then ground it down into the ground for a while. And luckily then another wild dog bit this male wildebeest, and he kind of ran and left that dog, and the dog survived. It is still alive today, but it was just the most insane scene, and it was around sort of sunset, and there was during that drought period, so there was just dust everywhere and dog flying through the air. It was really quite insane. And so you can see why wild dogs for us as presenters and guides are such amazing animals, because it's just always excitement. Oh hi Bacon, I love your Twitter handle. It's always a good one, but it makes us hungry too early in the morning. But yes, the wild dogs do go after baby zebras. I have seen them kill a baby zebra before, so they'll go after anything that they can outmuscle. So you'll find they'll go after baby zebra, baby wildebeest. I've seen them harassing baby elephants before. I've seen them trying their luck with a baby rhino once before. So anything that they can really kind of get close to and try and sort of outmuscle, then they will do that. But generally they know that the elephants, buffalo, rhinos, those are all animals that are far too powerful for them, and so they try and sort of avoid them as much as possible. But they do sometimes have a go. I've seen them also go after baby buffalo, and in fact there was a pack last year in the drought period when the buffalo were very, very weak, and we saw a lot of buffalo dying in sort of September, October. There was a pack of dogs that was over 30, and they were going after sub-adult buffalo every single day. So they were managing to pull down these sort of 2-year-old buffalo, which is insane if you think about it. A small little animal like this bringing down those strong buffalo was really quite something. So they are adaptable animals, and they'll go after whatever they need to survive. But I'm so thankful that they've stopped. There's a little waterhole there that they're drinking from, and they at least have allowed us to carry on viewing them for a while longer. Anna Marie, you're wondering if they could take down a warthog? Yes, they can. I've seen them take down a few warthogs in my time. They can also get chased around by warthogs. I've seen a pack of dogs in the Kruger getting chased by a big male warthog, but they do hunt them quite a lot, and they do have quite a bit of success with warthogs. The problem with the warthog is they've got to be careful of those tusks, and warthogs are not animals that lie down easily. They will fight back as much as they can, and so you find the dogs, while they do hunt them a lot, here where we are in the Sabi Sands, there's much easier animals to hunt than that. When you go into other areas where maybe there's less sort of variety, and there's also less numbers of things like impalas, you'll find they do go after warthogs. I know in the Savuti and in parts of Botswana, warthog is definitely high up in the menu, and they go after them very, very regularly, and they'll have a lot of success with those warthogs. So it is a definite sort of item on the list for prey animals. And like I say, wild dogs will literally go after anything. If they can outmuscle it and use the pack to outweigh and be able to bring it down, then they'll go after it. It's much like any predator. They're not too choosy. They'll try and get whatever they can to survive. Now I think that's it. I think they've decided to depart. They've had their drink. You can see they're all running off now, and they're going straight north towards Manyeleti. So that's the end of that, I'm afraid. But what a way to start the day. Spectacular. And thank you, wild dogs, for your entertainment this morning. And there you go. There's the last little set of ears disappearing through the bush. And over the dam wall they'll go and into Manyeleti. So I think that's it for us this morning. But how